Hello, this is Paul again, and I wanted to show you one of my DIY projects. It's a adapter for the Moller uh, 8 6 8 where is it? There it is, 8 by 19 by 1.5 anamorphic lens adapter for the Bolex H8 series cameras. It works on a lot of different 8mm cameras, and it usually doesn't come with the correct bracket for the H8. So I designed this one based on some photographs, taking detailed pictures and measurements, and I designed this one to work with the Bolex H8 camera. I'm going to install it real quick, hopefully one-handed, without knocking my beautiful camera to the ground. Here's the upper rod adapter. You notice it doesn't have anything protruding, just some threads. That goes in the upper. And get it to go. There it goes. This is actually, I bought this off of eBay. These were for the 16mm version, but they work just the same for the 8mm version. I don't know of any differences. They may be a little longer, which is actually good. So here's the bottom one going in. It goes in and threads through the center hole. And next up is the actual anamorphot. I'm going to unscrew these cinching screws, tightening screws, and then it just slips on. Hopefully I can do this one-handed. Like I said, I don't want to make my camera hit the ground. So what I do is these are better if you loosen it when you get this thing started on there. I'm gonna have to set the camera down for a second to get it started. There it goes. This top screw is still in too far. Okay, so there it goes. And then the next thing, actually you would want to do this first. You would want to install the taking lens. You can use the medium lens, the 12mm or the 36mm on the H8, but you're not supposed to use the 5.5 because it's too wide for this adapter. Hopefully I can get this threaded. I probably should have done that first. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten this so I don't knock the adapter off onto the floor while I'm trying to put this lens on. And there's the taking lens getting threaded up. And you want the preset levers to be to the outside so that you can see the scale for there it goes. Okay, so there it is, fully installed. And then we'll just adjust this in till it kind of touches. I'm going to use two hands here. Okay, so there it is, adjusted in. And I like to leave a little gap so that when you focus, what happens is the lens will move forward. If you focus, the lens moves forward. So I don't like to put the Moller up against the lens, completely hard against the lens. And so there you go. And then it just functions just like a normal lens, except for when you focus, you have to focus the taking lens first, and then you focus the Moller to the same number, and then you make any minor adjustment to focus that you might need to do. I have this file available. I had this printed out of steel because it was a little cheaper. I was going to have it printed of aluminum, but the steel was actually less expensive. It's 18/8 stainless steel, and it's extremely hard. After it's printed, they heat treat it, and it's very tough after that. I had to run a reamer through, I believe these are 8mm shafts. I'll have to measure them up. But I had to run a reamer through both the top and the bottom because the 3D printing process isn't precise enough to get an exact tight fit. So it's going to print probably a little small. So you have to run a reamer through the up and down. And then I had to tap these two holes. The holes were already there. I just had to size them up to the final size and tap them for these little thumb screws. And then here you have it. The only thing that's missing, there should be a little knurled stop screw to keep this from accidentally sliding off while you're making adjustments and hitting the ground. I have one for my 16mm camera, and I throw it on there when I'm using this on my camera. I have I have more H8s than I care to mention. I think I have 4 of them by now. I have 2 H8 Rex 4s, one of them being a double Super 8. This is a normal 8mm, regular 8mm camera. This is just for demo purposes. I use this more on my my double Super 8 cameras because I really love those cameras. And so I have 2 of the modified H8s that are Rex 4 double Super 8 cameras, and I have this regular 8. This is the Rex 3 version, so it doesn't have the 1-to-1 shaft here. It only has the 8-to-1 shaft, so you can still put the universal motor on here and run it with the proper voltage. You can run this camera with a motor, but it won't be a sync motor. The other camera I have is this fully rigged out Bolex H8 double Super 8 with the ESM motor, and you can put a crystal sync attachment and shoot crystal sync in double Super 8, or as you might know it, Super 8. I have a custom made battery that I made for it, and 3D printed, and it uses short 2/3, I think they're 2/3 AA cells, 6 of those, and it fits right into the handle here. I also have the H16 Rex 5, which works in an identical way as the H8 version. It just uses this larger adapter, and you still have to do the double focus. This one will work with the medium and the telephoto Switar lenses, but it does not work with the wide angle telephoto Switar lens. So this again, the Rex 5 can be rigged up with an ESM motor just like this camera is, and I have one right here. I just don't have it mounted right now. And so the Rex 5, this is the original bracket, and I used that as a reference when I designed my smaller. What people don't understand is this will not fit on the H8 because the distance between the mounting holes is smaller on the H8 because the lenses are smaller and the center of the frame is smaller. They had to adjust the turret, and also the turret on the H16 cameras is thicker. You can see that there's probably a good 1/2 inch thick here, and if you look at the H8 cameras, it's a thinner block right here, and so the lenses actually sit closer. There's a chart that tells you the exact distance and all that, but I don't know why they didn't just use the H16 mount and then just use H16 lenses and just come out with some different sizes for the H8. I don't know why they would do that, but I suspect they wanted to have separation in the pricing for the more amateur-oriented H8 cameras, whereas the H16 is more of a kind of like a mid to high-end consumer camera. Actually, I consider it myself. I consider the Rex 5 you know, a fully professional camera because it can use the 400-foot magazine. These cameras are great because you can shoot around 10 minutes at 24 frames a second and around 11, almost 12 minutes at 18 frames a second. And the normal shooting speed for 8mm non-sync is 18 frames a second, so you're getting a lot of bang for your buck. If you shoot Fomapan is about $42 a roll landed to my address, and so you're getting the equivalent of a 50-foot roll of Super 8 4 times on that roll, and that roll is only costing you $42, so it's about 11, 12 bucks for 25 feet of finished film if you compare it to Super 8, you know, this black and white reversal. The real economy comes when you start processing your own film and transferring your own film, and that's what I like to do because you know, this hobby can get a little expensive, and if the more you do yourself, the less money you have to fork out to third parties, which is no problem. I send film out. I send a lot of my reversal color film out because it's so expensive. I don't want to take a chance on, you know, not getting the best results out of that expensive film. But for Fomapan, I usually just process it myself. Anyway, here's the Moller Anamorphot mounted to an H8 and the special bracket I made for it. And if you need that file, I can put a link. I can Dropbox it or Google Drive it, and I'll make that available. The thing is, it takes a little bit of effort on your part to finish the part after you get it back. And I don't know how many people have that mechanical skill and the tools necessary to make these things. And I really can't get into making them for other people. It's just too much effort for me. So I would make the digital file available if you wanted to have the 3D printed. I also made a file for the upper and lower mounting boss, and then you would just use 8mm ground steel rod that's used for 3D printers and install it after you had these made out of steel. And you'd have to deal with the threads if the threads weren't fine enough. You'd have to figure a way of cleaning those threads up. So, you know, I made some out of 3D printed plastic and they seem to work okay. But I don't know if I would hang a expensive Moller Anamorphot off them, and that's up to you. I was lucky enough to be able to find these upper and lower rods on eBay one day, and I paid a pretty good price. I mean, you know, they were not cheap. So anyway, that's the way I like to shoot anamorphic with this camera. And I have other adapters. This is a anamorphic adapter that I bought in Japan in the probably late 1990s. I moved in 1997, so it would be about 95, 96 when I bought this adapter. And this one doesn't have a focus. It will just rotate, so I have a rubber band around it to keep it from moving, but this thing will just rotate. And you have to fix it every time. So I made a special bracket to hold it separately. This bracket here clamps onto a threaded adapter, and then this threads into that. Anyway, and then this is the zoom lens, and so I can shoot anamorphic with this one, and it has a 1.5 squeeze, and it only needs to be focused from the taking lens. So I really enjoy using that. This is one of my double Super 8 cameras. Anyway, that's the end of this video. I'll make another one on the ESM motor. The thing about the ESM motor is if you mount any external motor, you want to turn the film speed all the way up to its maximum setting so that the motor is in control of the speed and not the Bolex's governor. You can probably cause damage to your Bolex governor and or your motor if you leave this at 24 frames a second and it's dragging the motor to run at a higher amps to overcome that. You're going to cause problems with your ESM motor. I could make another video on that. But anyway, this video is long enough, and I hope you enjoyed watching the information about the Moller Anamorphot. Thanks for watching. And take a look at some of my other videos and maybe subscribe if you're, you know, if you enjoyed this, you know, maybe give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I hate saying that, but it does help me out. So thanks a lot. Bye-bye.